Hey guys, Scrubbermillion here, and we're back at it again with another Melty type Lumina video. Today's video is a little different from my usual guides and going into more depth. This is just wanting to discuss something that has been catching my attention lately when I listen to commentary or when I see people discuss the game that may not be too familiar about it, and is Melty an option select heavy game? So I think this topic is pretty interesting and I kind of want to go over it, see the arguments for and against, kind of explain you guys the option selects in this game, how simple they really are, and how at high level you don't really see like the crazy 5-layer burrito stuff that people meme about. So let's get started and let's go over the basics. Alright, so first of all, what is an option select? So option selects have been in fighting games for many years, and it's basically a series of inputs that are gonna give you a different result based on what the opponent does, right? So for those who don't know what an option select is, that may be starting with fighting games and don't know the terminology, the most common example is what we call a safe jump. So it's a jumping attack that beats reversals, right? So for example, you see this is hitting the opponent. Now let me make her do an actual reversal. As you see, I did the same exact inputs, but in one case I got the hit and in another case I got the block. That is the very basic example of what an option select is. So let's go into more depth about Melty type Lumina specific option selects and how they affect the game as a whole. So speaking about Melty type Lumina specific option selects, the classic ones are the Antiheroes, which is really easy to do. And if you are a path player like myself, I use a Hori path currently, it's really easy to do if you have your throw mapped to one of the macros. Basically is you press your 5A. Remember in this game 5As can be whiff cancelled into other buttons. And you do 5A into throw. Like A plus D, right? Because D is your shield button and A is 5A. So I can just showcase it. On whiff, you see I'm getting my shield out. On hit, I'm getting 5A, 5A. Right? So this is the very classic example. You use this on midis to beat people trying to wake up heat, right? So very common option select. Very easy to do, by the way. As you notice, I literally just show you. I'm literally pushing. For those who use the very basic input, square plus R1. So you can get it out really easy. And you can use other buttons. I'm using 5B here. So you can do whatever you want. Very easy to do. This one is really important to the game as I'm going to go more in depth later. But let's go over the next option select. That's pretty common in Type Lumina. I'm gonna say this one is pretty weird to call it option select. I think it's just an option because it doesn't really cover many things, as in you're always gonna get the same inputs, right? But you do it to beat a specific thing, and that's backlashes. So anti-backdash OS is whiffing 2A, and like I said, 2As in this game, A buttons, can be whiff cancelled. So into a 2C, most commonly, most characters use a 2C here. And this is used to be people trying to backdash out. As you see, I was able to catch the backdash on wake up because backdashes in this game have invul and they're really good. Sometimes it's really hard to catch them. So most of the time you have to commit with this. And this now starts something very interesting for this game, which is, hey Scrod, so can you beat heat and backdash at the same time? And the answer is no, you can't, right? Because if you were trying to do it with sweep, right? If I want to put a shield here, I get the shield, I don't get the 2C. So this is where the real layer of defense happens in this game, right? Is, am I going to call out their anti-heroes? Are they going to catch my backdash? What are they going to do? You have ways to beat either or. See, the backdash beats the shield OS, heat beats the anti-backdash OS. So they kind of fit into each other. That's kind of why I'm cataloging this as an option select. Now let's go to one that I want to say gets really misrepresented as an option select, and like anti-backdash OS, it's really a option, really. So if you watch tournament footage, you gotta tell me, whenever something like this happens, people used to say, "Oh, look at the option select! Oh wow, what an OS, whatever." When people do this, have you guys ever seen that when watching footage? There's no magic to this. It's literally just doing 2A into Moondrive, right? And we do that because by doing the Moondrive, we can pause the screen and react to whatever reversal the opponent went for. So you can punish backdashes, you can punish DPs, you can punish heats at the expense of your Moondrive. So again, I wouldn't call this like an option select, and if you were to call it, I would say it's like a very baby one, like a very simple one, right? Like there's nothing too complex about the option. So that's kind of the point that I wanted to make, especially why I brought up all of these very important offensive OSs, is that I hear a lot of people always say, hey, I don't really want to try the game because it looks like you need to learn so much, like it's so difficult to get all these OSs down. But I don't think it's that hard, right? I think that the system is very well built in, so that these things just come naturally through gameplay. So I'll say give it another spin now that you've seen some of these options, and yeah, you don't really have to go that in depth to play the game, quote unquote, like play the real mind games with the other people, like on the higher level. So now let's go to the defensive OSs. So these ones are a little more tricky, but I want to say, compared to other fighting games, we're not seeing anything that we haven't seen before. So the main defensive OS in this game is what we call the 2B OS. There are many other ways to do this option select, but 2B is the most popular just because it's the safest. If your character has a 2B that beats air dashes, you are so in the gold. So in my case, my character has one. Very blessed. So if you're seeing on my inputs on the left side, I am pressing 2B and then the throw input. Very important, don't do what I was trying to showcase here, which if you do it too fast, you get the charge. And you don't want to do that. That will get you in trouble. But this makes it so that if you see, you get 2B if they try to bait you. And if they try to throw you, you take the throw. So this is the very basic option select that we use. You can do other things like 3C if your character doesn't have a good 2B anti-air. You do it with 3C instead. And I'm just gonna show you this work. I don't know much of the time because I don't really use it that much. But yeah, this is just work. I don't know how to do it with 3C. I'm a 2B OSer because my character lets me do it. But other characters, for example, use fuzzy jumps, other sorts of throw tech OSs. But these ones are not exclusive to Type Lumina. These are in many other anime fighting games and fighting games as a whole, right? So, is that harder than other games' option selects? Arguably, but it's not too different from what we see in other games. So, I want to say, just don't be overwhelmed by these. Also, like I said, there are many people in this game that are very good and are stand techers. Because these option selects have weaknesses, right? So, the 2B OS, if you walk at me and delay your 5A, I get hit. I will get instantly cooked. It's over for me, right? So don't just say that, oh, you have to learn how to do this perfectly, because even if you know how to do it, you can still get opened up. That's my point. So is the game really an option select game? I guess at face value, yes, there are option selects that you need to know, and like I mentioned before, they play into the mind games of Type Lumina. So, you know, for example, me trying to call out a backdash just to get heated on, or then backdashing to beat my anti-shield OS so they get out. Those are very basic, but those are very core to Melty. So yeah, these option selects are a thing. However, I think they're very easy to understand, like I try to do it in this video. There are very complex option selects in this game, but at high level, nobody does that stuff. That's for sure. I'll be honest. That's all for sure. So that's what I want to do. It's not a very big video, but it's a conversation that I wanted to start. It's like, what's the things that overwhelm people trying to get into Type Lumina? I've heard many things. Lack of resources. For example, that's why I started my guide series, right? A lot of people were like, you know, the wiki is okay, but not all the wikis are filled. Or I'm a visual learner, so the wiki doesn't really help me. So I've been trying to help with that. Now, I heard this a lot about the option selects. Like, people didn't want to commit to learning all this stuff and understanding everything. So I try to condense it into something more digestible, something easier to understand. So yeah, hope this helped and we can start some conversation on other issues that you guys might see that might trouble in your starting to Type Lumina or improving in Type Lumina. So I'm just here for you guys. Let me